where does one begin a eulogy of William James Newell? Probably the best place to begin is Belfast, where he began. My father was a devoted Canadian. He loved to fly the flag. But he never forgot the place of his root, Ireland. And if he were here, he would remind me, Northern Ireland. We know his great achievements. We know that his greatest achievement was when he found his pearl of great price. He shone in the world and in the church. But without this beautiful, faithful, grounded wife, his light would not have shone so brightly. And he always knew that. We know his great achievements. Among them being the founding pastor of the Oshawa Alliance Church, of him being colleague of the great A.W. Tozer in Toronto, of being, I think, at that moment, the youngest ever elected district superintendent of the Alliance. We know how he led World Vision internationally from Canada to new heights of commitment. For this he was honored. His work with some of the world's most extreme victims of hunger, poverty, political exile. For this he was honored and made a member of the Order of Canada. We remember him as sort of grandfather of World Vision Japan. We know his achievements. We thank God for them. But to eulogize, I would like to point to three aspects of this great soul. The first story relates to his desire to connect. He wouldn't walk along the street without recognizing everyone that he passed. We remember him standing at shopping mall entrances, holding the door open for people and saying, "That will be 50 cents. He sought every opportunity to connect. And as he grew more and more old, he became more and more aware that part of what he carried for the world and for every person he met was blessing. And the prayer that found its way right into the core of his heart was a prayer of blessing. Last March, I was home in Canada visiting, and my sister Heather had made arrangements for me to sell Opa's car with him, which he had been illegally driving for about 6 months. I phoned up the car salesman the day before to say, "Now I'm coming in tomorrow with my father, and he may appear to be confused about all sorts of things, but please honor him by speaking to him, not to me. This is his car, and I'll be with him." This young car salesman really got it. I wish he was here today. There was banter, repartee between these two. He also had this young car salesman had a great sense of humor. There were absurd moments in the conversation when my father would say to him, "Now, how much money do I owe you?" And he would say, "No, Dr. Newell, we want to give you money." And my father would look at me and say, "This is very generous of you." And then, on the side, he would say to me, "I already sold my car 2 months ago." At the end of this transaction, I could see that they had so enjoyed one another. So standing in the middle of the car sales room, I said to the young salesman, I said, "Whenever I am on the phone with my father, or whenever I am parting from him, he gives me a blessing. And I think he would like to give you a blessing now." So here we were, standing in the car sales room. I'm in the scum of the economic world. The tax collector of today. And he gets a blessing, and my father takes his hands in his, looks right into his face, and says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and be gracious to you." I stood looking at my father thinking, if I could be such a bearer of blessing at that point in my life. So all my attention was on my father, and I looked over at the car salesman, tears streaming down his face. He will never forget that moment. Yes, we gathered to honor my father, his ability to connect, his desire to connect, his awareness that he carried the blessing of God for others. My father wouldn't wish us just to remember him and honor him. He would wish us to pledge anew today in his memory that we should be connected, that we should do the connections over the neighbor fence, that we should be the connectors in our communities and between us as nations and between us as great religious traditions, and that we should grow in maturity and awareness that we are bearers of holy blessing. Shall we make that commitment today? Not just to look back at this great soul, but to follow where he has led us.